His wife is divorcing him. His children hate him. He had decided to commit suicide. And he clearly told me, you are my last chance. But today, this guy's a millionaire. He makes a crore a month, has more than 100 employees. And when they attract more problems in their life, they call it intuition and say, देख मैंने बोला था कुछ गड़बड़ होने वाली है, देख हो गया.
And my father just came one day, this is 2020, and he saw me do that. And he's like, "Sab, क्यों कर रहे हो? मैं तुमको क्या खाना पीने के लिए पैसे नहीं दे पा रहा. Why are you doing all this? Just focus on electrical engineering degree."
I had already gone through 3 breakups. So I had decided I don't want to get into any other relationship. Every time she asked me for marriage, I said no. So I said no, I'm not ready for it. Making money is easy. पहले मान लो. छोटा पैसा आ रहा है, उसको ना मत बोलो. After I started this whole process, within 2 weeks, I was sitting in Amitabh Bachchan's house.
You met Amitabh Bachchan.
I met Amitabh Bachchan at this distance. The first time I applied it, in 25 days, I had my first job.
This podcast was insane. Hi everyone, I'm Ishan Sharma, and with me today I have Mitesh Khatri. Mitesh and Indu Khatri are India's most trusted law of attraction coaches. And this podcast we talked so much in depth about how does law of attraction work and how you can employ it in your own life to make more money, to get better jobs, to get rich, and ultimately to achieve financial independence in your life. They also have a national best-selling book called as The Law of Attraction, and they've helped millions of people practice LOA and get true success in their own life. Now, for the viewers of this podcast, he has a daily magic practice workshop that you can join for completely free with the link in the description. And they also have a wealth mastery course. Jiska pehla lesson is completely free for all of you people who are watching Limitless with Ishan. So go check it out with the link in the description. And now let's hear it from Mitesh. Mitesh, thank you so much for taking out the time and coming on the show. I am super excited about learning about law of attraction from you. I have seen the Secret documentary, I have read the book, but I was always really curious to learn about how can I use it in my own life. And I think I have used some elements of it, not exactly called it LOA, but I want to understand from you what is law of attraction and how does this concept really work in lives of people.
Perfect. So, firstly, Ishan, thank you for allowing me to be part of your podcast. It's a wonderful experience to be here. I think you are one of the examples of law of attraction for me as a case study. And I think we're going to invite you very soon on our channel to make sure that we use your case study to show to the world that this is what's possible in law of attraction.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I really mean that because for me, law of attraction is the science of what helps people to manifest their goals. A lot of people believe that law of attraction is only about affirmations or visualization. And most people are just stuck with those 2 or 3 techniques. And also because the book that made it famous, The Secret, The Power of Subconscious Mind, talks only about 1 or 2 of these things, which is either affirmations or visualization. But a lot of people, for them, it works sometimes it doesn't work. Because there are 2 levels of law of attraction. One is the basic law of attraction, but what we teach is the advanced law of attraction, which means that you go a little deeper into what law of attraction really is. But let's understand first, when the answer of your question, that what really is law of attraction. It's not about positive thinking only. It's first about understanding it's a science. Let's see how. In 7th standard physics, we learned that everything in the universe is made of energy, right? This bottle is matter. But through a microscope, if you look at it, there is molecules, submolecules, atoms, neutrons, protons, everything in our body, in everything that is matter around us. But at the end, when you see really deep within with a microscope, you'll find nothing but energy. Interestingly, you'll never hear the word energies. Have you ever thought of that? It's never energies, it's only energy.
Energy.
Why is that? Because there are laws of physics that defines that. For an example, one of the laws of physics that we speak of in 7th standard, literally, is that the total amount of energy in the universe is always what? Constant. There you go. Right? That energy cannot be created, energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transformed from one form to another form.
Right.
That's law of attraction. A third principle that many people don't remember is that energy with the same frequency will always attract each other. Now, how did these principles really transform into science? Let's look at how the radio was invented. When scientists understood that energy with the same frequency will attract each other, that's how radio waves got into play. So now when we take a radio and we tune the radio into 93.5, what will we attract? 93.5.
That frequency.
That's the only frequency that you'll attract. Is it possible that you take a phone and you dial your mom's number and you connect to your father? Is that possible? Why not?
Because I'm calling that particular number, that line.
So you're not calling that number, you're calling a frequency.
Right.
And that we call it a number, obviously, but for the scientist, it's a frequency. And when you call that frequency, there is no other possibility but to only connect to that frequency. Because law of physics says that energy, when vibrates at a certain frequency, will attract only that frequency. Will never attract anything else. So TV channels work on that, radio waves work on that, the mobile phone works on that. Almost all the technology that you see around you, including right now the internet that we see, works on frequency. Now, just like that, our body is also made of what?
Frequency.
Exactly. Because we are also made of energy. Now, in Bhagavad Gita, it is called something else. So, if you see my book, The Law of Attraction, I have explained in the book, line by line, comparison between what Bhagavad Gita says and what Law of Attraction says in quantum physics is not similar, it is exactly the same. So, for an example, in Bhagavad Gita, it says that in the entire world, there is only one God, which actually in English means that the total amount of energy in the universe is always constant and there is only one energy. It's not like there
That
are.
is the interpretation.
That's the interpretation in Bhagavad Gita, that energy is only one, God is only one. And if you go to any scriptures of any religion, they'll say God is always one.
Krishna says too.
Krishna says, I'm only Krishna. But if you go to the other sciences, let's say you go to Christians, they'll say it's only Jesus. Some will say it's only Vaheguru. Some will say it's only Allah. But everybody's saying the same language. There is only one God, which means there is only one energy. Another thing they also say in that is, if you really want to find God, where do you find God? In any of these books, if you read, where do they say find God?
Everywhere.
Another thing they always say is find God where, if you really want to find God.
Inside.
Exactly, within you. So a lot of people go into meditation.
Right.
Now, how does that relate to law of attraction? This energy that we talk about, which many people call God, we in law of attraction in the world, we call it as universe instead of using the word God. Because otherwise we're getting into the religious domain. But if you get into the law of attraction science domain, we call it universe. Now, where is this universe? It's inside me. Because I am also made of energy. Every cell of our body is connected to everything in the universe. Every energy is connected to everything in the universe. It is just a matter of frequency connection. So, for an example, let's say you think of a friend sometimes, and sometimes the friend just calls you back. Has that ever happened to you?
It has, yes.
It has.
Yeah.
But has something like this happened only once in the entire lifetime or multiple times?
बहुत बार हुआ है, वो
बहुत
बोलते
बार
हैं
हुआ
कि
है।
बहुत लंबी उम्र जियोगे आप।
हाँ, exactly. अब ये कैसे हो जाता है कि you think of a friend and the friend calls you? Because you vibrated at the frequency of the friend by thinking about the friend.
It's not a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence. Yes, I agree, we've not been able to perfect the science yet. But imagine if it happens uncontrollably, that means it can happen.
Right.
And we just need to learn the science to make it happen more consciously. It's already happening unconsciously. Example, हम कभी कभी घर से निकलते हैं, सोचते हैं आज कुछ गलत नहीं हो जाए, सारे सिग्नल रेड मिल जाते हैं। आज लेट नहीं होना
काली बिल्ली
चाहिए,
रास्ता काट रही
काली बिल्ली रास्ता काट रही है, right? The more we think negative, how come suddenly negative things starts happening around us? Why? That's law of attraction. But how do you explain it in a little scientific understanding? Coming back to what I was saying, everything in the world is made of energy. My body is also made of energy. Now, I am not a radio, but do I also have frequency? Yes. What are those layers of frequency? Like a radio has 93.5 or 101.1, or a mobile has numbers, radio waves. Our body has 4 layers of frequency, which I like to call it as FTBA: feelings, thoughts, beliefs, and actions. So let's take feelings first. When you're feeling something, there are only two kind of feelings: either a positive frequency or a negative frequency. Which means, let's say you're feeling happy. What would you call that? A positive frequency or a negative frequency?
Positive frequency.
Positive. And when you're feeling positive, do you feel a high or do you feel low?
Feel a high.
Exactly. That's why people say when I'm happy, I feel high. And when people are sad, what do they say? They feel high or low?
They feel low.
Yeah, because it's a lower frequency. It's a negative frequency. So they start feeling low. Now, the moment I start feeling happy, I'm vibrating at that feeling. I'm vibrating at that energy. Everything around me is also made of what?
Energy.
And all energy has what?
Frequency.
Correct? So the moment I am happy, anything around me which matches my frequency, as per the law of science, what will happen? Law of physics. The law of physics, I'll repeat, is when energy vibrates at the same frequency, it attracts each other. Just like the radio I explained. So if I am happy, what will I attract in my environment?
High emotions, high frequencies.
People who have positive frequency.
Positive frequency.
See, think about it. Right now, when we say we dial a radio frequency, Do we create radio frequency or is it already in the room? When you tune into, let's say, a radio channel,
Right.
is it in the room or do you create it?
It's already in the room.
It's already in the room. You're just tuning into it,
Right.
right? So, just like that, I like to say that in any point of time in the universe, at every single moment, we are always surrounded by two kind of people and two kind of situations. Simple, positive and negative.
Negative.
So there are positive people around us, there are negative people around us. There are good people, there are bad people, there are good situations, there are bad situations, there are problems, there are opportunities. Now, what will we attract depends on what?
The frequency that we could put out.
That I am tuned into. So if I'm tuned into a happy frequency, what are the chances that I'll attract people who help me versus cheat me? Chances are higher that I'll attract people who will help me.
Right.
But if I'm constantly doubting myself, if I'm low confident, if I'm sad, if I'm worried, then what kind of people will I attract?
Right.
Negative people.
वही बोलते जो चिंता चिता के समान है.
Exactly.
Right.
So you'll see a lot of people who are constantly worried, they attract more problems in their life. And when they attract more problems in their life, they call it intuition and say, देख मैंने बोला था ना, कुछ गड़बड़ होने वाली है, देख हो गया.
I called you so.
I called you so, I
हाँ.
told you so.
Yeah, yeah.
But they are just validating the science that if I'm low, I'm going to attract negative things. So that's the feelings part of it. Now, the thoughts and beliefs are when we say, I believe in something. So if I say that I believe I will never be able to grow in my life until I finish a graduation degree and I don't do a job and I don't struggle for the first 5 years, I can never be rich until I do all that. Isn't that a belief?
Yeah.
Now, you are a classic example of someone who has become very successful at an early age. You said you're 22 yet.
22.
And you're not even completed 23.
I
Right?
will be 23 on 13
You,
July.
you will be.
Yes.
And just by 22, you have millions of subscribers. You have met some of the most successful people in the country already. You're interviewing people. You're probably getting paid for these podcasts. The best part is you're doing brand endorsements. You've written 2 books. If I ask generally a 20-year-old boy that this is what you will achieve in the next 2 years, what will they say?
It's wild.
It's wild. They'll say not possible.
Doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But the
I
fact
need a degree first.
Exactly, I need a degree first.
Yeah.
But the fact that you've achieved it, it means that first you must have had that belief that it's possible. If you don't believe in it, how will you attract the right people, the right opportunities?
Right.
Like if you look into your own journey a couple of years before or 4 years before, now that you're successful, everybody wants to know your journey. But if they ask you today that, Ishan, can you draw me a map of what exactly made you who you are today? You won't be able to make that map. Because even you don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Like
I can vaguely tell.
You can vaguely tell.
Made videos.
Yeah. But can you really create a map and tell people, okay, follow this map and you'll be where I am in 4 years? Very difficult.
Yeah.
Some people have all the resources that you do. They have all the opportunities that you do. But they are not as successful sometimes than you are. Why? Because they lack the frequency. In my language, they lack the belief. But because you had that belief 4 years ago, once you vibrated that belief that this is possible, that I can be an influencer, now suddenly the right people start showing up, the right opportunities start showing up.
Yeah.
I would even say the right failures happen. Because I believe even failure teaches you something. I'm sure you must have gone through some failures, which if you look back today, you'll realize, thank God that happened.
One too many.
Right? Like, thank God I learned from that. That's law of attraction. And then the final layer is what I call as action frequency.
But I never attracted the failure, right? Like I was just working, I got the failure in my way.
You cannot have anything in your way or on your way unless you're vibrating at it. Because technically speaking, how can you get something towards you if that is not your frequency? So 100% anything that's happening in your life, good or bad, positive or negative, is your frequency, is my frequency. Yes, there is a debate about 10 to 20% of our life is not chosen by us, it's destiny. Hence, astrology comes into play. Numerology comes into play.
Yeah.
It works. I do believe that about 20% of our life is destiny, but 80% of our life is our choice.
Yeah. आपने वो movie देखी है Chandu Champion?
अभी तो देखी नहीं, पर देखनी बाकी है.
Yeah. I was watching the movie and I started just crying.
Yeah.
So the guy, Murli Pedkar is the name, right? So he goes through so many struggles, right? In the starting, he's like कि मैं इंडिया के लिए गोल्ड लेकर आऊंगा, and everyone laughs at him, and he's like कि हंस क्यों रहे हो, right? And he's super agitated by that, and in his village, no one like takes him seriously, and then he goes through time and time again to get to play in the Olympics and get the gold medal, but वो ला ही नहीं पाता, कभी ना कभी कुछ ना कुछ हो जाता है उसके साथ. There was some war because of which he loses his legs. So he's not able to walk now. So then he goes for Paralympics. Usme fir kuch, there's some shootout, some terrorist attack. Olympics are cancelled. So every single time he's trying to get there, but something or the other happens and he's not able to achieve it. And then finally, at the very end, he goes all he goes all in, right? He's like, I want to get this done. He goes from wrestling to swimming, and at the end, he wins the gold medal, defeating all the countries. People, India at that time was struggling after the war, right? So the officials said that we don't want to invest into Paralympics right now. And then he says that ki, you think that I am not capable to win a medal for the country, and because of that you're not putting in the effort, you're not giving me the chance to get there.
But he believed he could do it.
He believed he could do it before anyone else believed in him, and then he made it happen.
What you said is very interesting. I remember my mentor once told me, his name is Tony Robbins. He said, when you achieve your goals, first, there has to be only one person in the world who has to believe in you, more than anybody believes in you. And that has to be you.
Yeah.
And in this story, as you classically said, he believed in himself. Now, probably there are other people who, in the same environment, were available, who had more opportunity, more resources, more potential than he did. But what he had, along with the resources and probably some amount of potential, was his belief. And that's what played 80% of his life,
Will.
that will.
Important.
I like to call it belief because a lot of times willpower is what we have on 31st of December. And we say, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And on 1st of January, we all know what happens to that willpower.
Resolutions.
Resolutions break. But when you truly believe in something, that I can do this, a belief is not something you think of something today and then you don't think of something tomorrow. That's a thought. Thoughts can come and go.
Yeah.
But a belief doesn't come and go. It stays with you. Like you said in Chandu Champion, if he believed that he can bring that gold medal, nothing around him was able to waver that belief for him. So beliefs are not easily shaken by other people, right? I'm sure when you were going through your journey of 4 years of coming where you are today, many people must have told you, don't waste your time. Right? Do a job. This is the time to work hard.
Yeah, I remember I started my first venture, which was basically offering podcast mentorship to people, image consultants. So I would basically call up people, cold calling people. And my father just came one day, this is 2020, and he saw me do that. And he's like, "Sab क्यों कर रहे हो? मैं तुमको क्या खाना पीने के लिए पैसे नहीं दे पा रहा? I'm not able to provide for you. Why are you doing all this? Just focus on your electrical engineering degree." And he was right in his own perspective. But I was just trying to do something really crazy. I was like, I want to try out, I want to speak, I want to pitch, I want to learn to sell. And so that was like,
And that desire of yours was also part of your belief. You believed you could do that.
yeah,
And that's what kept you going. But because of that, you started attracting the right people and right opportunities. If you wouldn't have had that belief, you wouldn't have been able to attract all that you have today. So yes, your hard work played a lot role in that. But that's the fourth layer, actions frequency. But haven't you met people who worked very hard but still not got what they wanted? Many of them.
absolutely.
Why? Because they have the action frequency without being backed by the feelings, thoughts, and beliefs. But if somebody is backing their actions, a lot of hard work, with the right feelings, the right thoughts, and the right beliefs, when this is aligned together, now they start attracting their goals. So look at it as my frequency, my FTBA, has to match my goals. Now, my goal may be to be an influencer. My goal may be to make money. My goal may be to get a job. My goal may be to start a business, to have a startup, to create a new product, to get married. It can be really anything, or to get a gold medal.
Yeah.
But my FTBA has to perfectly match with my goals. And when that matches, the attraction starts happening. And the journey between me here and my goal here becomes a little more effortless, faster, which is what happened with you.
Yeah,
So, for an example, we have one of our levels of programs. We call it platinum. That's the highest level we have. Now, in platinum, we say 10 years of success in 1 year. And a lot of people tell me, how is that possible? And I always tell people the belief that most people have, which is a limiting belief, is that success equals time. But that's not true. And again, I'll come back to your journey. 22 years, what success you've got. If this is true, then that is a lie. That success is not equals time.
yeah, yeah,
People can achieve success faster. And I don't think you and I are probably the only examples here. There are so many people in the world who have achieved so much in so little time. Ambani's, Tata's took years to be where they are today. Elon Musk did it in the last 2 decades and surpassed them. So is success equals time? Not really. Success is more about your frequency and what you attract.
Right.
And if you're in the right frequency where you want to go, instead of making that journey full of struggle, we can make it more effortless.
What you work on is more important than how hard you work. Like
Exactly.
Naval Ravikant
Exactly.
said it.
And I like to say focus on the end result, not too much on the process of how you'll get there. Then automatically the right results will come into picture. That, as per me, is law of attraction.
Yeah.
Vibrating at the right FTBA, feelings, thoughts, beliefs, and actions with your goals, and then law of attraction works for you.
Mm-hmm. I want to understand from your journey, like how has law of attraction helped you? And for the people who are watching this, right? Like I like to go in the detail, in the depth of how can people actually apply things in their own life with examples. So we'll go on that as well. But first, want to understand from you your journey of how did you start? How did you get to where you are today in terms of your success monetarily and relationship wise as well in life?
Okay, so crazy journey. I come from a Marwadi family, stay in Pune. As a child, very lazy, not very hardworking, obviously, and not very interested in studies. So I was not having a very high level of acumen to be someone who's like a scholar. And as a child, I always had these movies which I was fantasized by Marvel cinemas, Spider Man, Superman,
Iron Man.
Iron Man.
Yeah.
And all of these characters had one common thing: superpowers. So I don't know about everybody, but I definitely had this idea that I wish I had superpowers, which would make my life a little faster, a little easier. And I remember when I was thinking about this, call it law of attraction maybe. In Pune, there is a lane called Hong Kong Lane. I don't know if you know about it. It's somewhere in JM Road. And in those days, I don't know if they still have it, but in those days there were two book stores in it in that lane. I was walking in that lane for some reason, and while walking, I saw this bookstore, and this one particular book caught my attention. It was called as The Silva Mind Control. Guess what word caught my attention? Mind control.
Mind control.
So I thought this is something to do with superpowers.
Yeah.
So I caught on to that book, and that was my first introduction to law of attraction. And that book actually explained how law of attraction works and how I can really start vibrating the right frequency to attract what I want. I started reading from there, and I think I must have read since then more than 300 books on how law of attraction works. I have all those books at home, and I started mastering what it really means to apply that. For the first few years, I was only reading, not applying. Got into too much knowledge. Because I was reading, I started sharing. People started liking it. So they said, okay, tell us more. So a time came when I started teaching it a little more professionally, started charging small money for it.
What year is this?
This was, I think, 22 years ago.
Okay.
And that time I remember I was charging about 500 rupees for this.
How old were you?
I'm 45 now, so about,
My age.
yeah, about your age at that time. And at that time, I remember when I was teaching, not professionally, not very successful. And I was trying to learn from many mentors. And that's when I had already gone through 3 breakups. So I had decided I don't want to get into any other relationship. But because of learning law of attraction, I realized that I was going through my own limiting beliefs in my relationships. So I changed my limiting beliefs. And one fine day, I remember I did this visualization in my house that, okay, universe, now I'm ready for a relationship.
Limiting beliefs in relationships का मतलब क्या है?
So when I believe that relationships are not meant for me, this is a belief.
So you thought that you're not worthy of
I
a
thought I was not
partner,
worth it.
of love.
I thought I'm not good enough. People, I'm not lovable enough.
But you know, this is a very common theme. I meet a lot of people my age and even younger than me, and they all think like that, that I'm not there yet where I can have a partner with me or to marry, for that example. That the reason people are marrying later now is because of that. They think that they're not capable to have a child. So that happens a lot today.
Yeah. So I had that belief because of which I had decided I don't want to get into a relationship. But then when I learned law of attraction, I realized, oh, that's a limiting belief. I can change that. So I tried it on myself. I changed that belief. And one fine day, I did this visualization that, okay, universe, I'm ready for a new relationship. Because I was at a stage where I was missing someone. I was missing that companionship because I was working alone in my life. And I felt it would be nice to have a partner to whom I can talk to every day. And after I did that manifestation of law of attraction as a technique, which we'll talk about in some time, some techniques also, when I applied it, in I think 48 hours after that, 2 days after that, I was walking by the road and I saw this huge hoarding in Pune which said, Dr. Sudhir Arora, mind control workshop. Now, again, same words came into my face, like Silva mind control workshop. I was like, okay, let's go for it.
What is mind control? But
So it's just basically understanding how to control your emotions, because our emotions are generally not controlled by us always. We allow us to be controlled by our emotions. We allow us to be controlled by our thoughts, by our beliefs. So when we say mind control, we're basically just saying, let's take control of our emotions, our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions. So when I saw this hoarding, I went for it. And the second day, I met Indu over there, who's my wife today. And when I saw her first, I didn't think of her much. She didn't think much of me. But then there was this one particular occasion where we were called with formal suits and formal dressing, Indian dressing. She came in a sari. Obviously, that's where my attention went on to her. Called her out for a date that night. And believe it or not, the next day I proposed her and we were already in a relationship as a girlfriend boyfriend.
oh wow, how did you know that she was the one?
I had no idea. It was, I guess, law of attraction, right? You feel it sometimes. And the weird part is, even though I got into the relationship with her, for 1 year, we were just as girlfriend boyfriends as a proper relationship. But every time she asked me for marriage, I said no. I said, no, I'm not ready for it. Again, coming from limiting beliefs that if I'm not financially successful yet, I don't want to be married yet. To some extent, that's right also. It's practical. And that's when I remember, by the way, that time I was making zero money. I was struggling even in that time. And Indu at that time was making a lot of money. She was coming from IT with 15 years of experience, engineer. And at that time, 22 years ago, she was making 1.25 lakhs a month, which was huge in that time.
Crazy.
She was a project manager handling 125 people in her group. So it was a big deal. So I remember when I told my dad about this girl, and I said I want to marry her. The first thing my dad told me was, "Beta, tere capacity se bahar hai. Don't try.
Out of your league.
Out of your league, man. Don't even try it. You
You
won't
need
be
some
able."
riz.
Yeah, exactly. He said you won't be able to handle her.
Yeah.
True story. And I said, well, Dad, if the universe has given it to me, I probably deserve it now. But that relationship went on, and she was the one who then finally questioned me one day. And I hope a lot of people get this message. She was the one who first time asked me that, Mitesh, if you know so much about law of attraction, why aren't you successful? And nobody had asked me that question any time before that. It hit me too hard. And I realized that I had acquired a lot of knowledge, but not applying. And that's when I started applying it first time. Believe it or not, the first time I applied it, in 25 days, I had my first job.
25 days.
In 25 days after I started applying law of attraction for getting a job, I just got a job. Most people were struggling at that time for getting a job.
And what were you doing before that wasn't allowing you to get the job before?
I wouldn't even say something was allowing me, because the moment I started using law of attraction, the right coincidences started happening. I saw an ad about Wipro Spectra Mine those days was coming up with a new call center. And coincidentally, I saw the ad. I went for the interview. There was some 500 people standing in a line. And if you remember those days, call centers were the thing.
Yeah.
So there were too many people in the line there. I looked at the line and said, I'm not doing this. I called up Indu and I said, I'm coming back. And she said, use your law of attraction. I said, okay. So in law of attraction, we have a rule that says, don't ask how, don't ask when, just use it. Which means that don't get too logical about it.
About
Will it work? Because my mind was like, there are 500 people standing here, even if I use law of attraction. How is it going to fast track my success right now? She said, use your own principle, don't ask how. I said, okay. See, only your girlfriend can do that to you, right?
So at that time, did she believe in law of attraction, or was she
She
like,
did.
"Ki karke dekho, aap batao"?
She did, because somewhere she had realized from my conversations that it was scientific. Being an engineer, logically, she understood all this frequency, science. She understood everything. She could even understand how in her life it had played a role. But she understood I was not using it. So she pushed me for that. And I remember in Wipro, when during those 500 people were standing in that line, I was in the front of that first cabin where the interviews were happening, and there was an empty bench there. Nobody was using the bench because everybody wanted to stand in the line. So I sat on that bench. True story. I closed my eyes and I did a little bit of law of attraction, and I said, I have already got my job and my salary slip is in my hands.
What do you mean by doing law of attraction?
Okay. So you do affirmations, you do visualization practices. There are certain techniques that you practice and you feel it. You've heard of the statement that says, fake it till you make it?
Yeah.
Actually, that doesn't work. The real statement in advanced law of attraction is, feel it till you make it. So you got to feel it. Believe it till you make it.
Yeah.
It's not really fake it. Because if you fake it, your brain says, not true. But then you don't really attract it. So I sat on that bench. I did some affirmations in my mind and I visualized it. And then what you're really supposed to do after that is let go and just relax and let the frequency work to come to you. So I just sat at that place doing something on my mobile. And I still remember there was this cabin opened. The interviewer walked out. He was probably going somewhere. He looked at me very weirdly because he thought, like, who's this strange guy sitting on this bench while all these guys are standing here? He looked at me like this. He said, why are you sitting here? I said, I'm here for an interview. He, I don't know what he thought. He said, okay, come. Now, I was about to ask why, and my mind said, shut up and go. It's an opportunity, don't ask. I went in, half an hour later, I had a salary slip in my hands, 10,500 rupees a month. Those days, got my first job. 500 people still standing in the line. Fair, not fair, I don't know. But I got the job. This is how law of attraction works, coincidences. You and I have experienced many such coincidences. But because we don't realize that is law of attraction, we don't try to learn how to make those coincidences happen more consciously. Once I learned how to make it happen, 9 months after that, I quit my job, started a company for teaching law of attraction, corporate training workshops. From then, there was no looking back. We started with, I remember, the first client in corporate workshops that I did as a leadership trainer was 5,000 rupees per day, many years ago in Pune. From there till today now, I think we've trained almost all the corporates in India. Most of their top management are trained by us. We've written 2 national best-selling books. The first one being Awaken the Leader in You, and now the second, which we are here for, The Law of Attraction. And for, I think, 17 years we did this. During the journey, I and Indu got married. So what I'd love to say is law of attraction is about if you use it consciously, you could create success in all 4 areas of life: health, relationships, career, and money. We like to call it as HRCM. A lot of people are not succeeding because they're working only behind one area and they get obsessed. Like you'll see some people obsessed behind money.
पैसे ही कमाना
पैसे कमाना, फिर बाकी सब छोड़ देते हैं. फिर एक दिन बहुत सारा पैसा आ जाता है शायद, but then suddenly it's too late for a relationship.
कोई है ही नहीं सेलिब्रेट करने के लिए.
So now they run behind relationship. And now they're obsessed with that. And in the meantime, this is taking a toll.
बैलेंस होना चाहिए.
Balance कर ही नहीं पा रहे. So in our workshops also we teach people saying, please balance your health, relationships, career, and money. So for 17 years we did that, leadership workshops. And then COVID hit. I think the whole world got impacted by that. And we love to say in law of attraction that doesn't matter what's happening around you, what is inside you is what you will attract. So when COVID hit, my income went down to zero like any other trainer because corporate workshops were not happening, hotels were not open, physically you couldn't meet people. But for some weird reason, Ishan, a month before that, I attended a workshop. And in that workshop, I was going through my own learning as a student. And I learned that for 17 years, I've done only corporate work, but not individual work. And I said, Indu, maybe it's time to do some individual work now. It's like, let's start helping individuals. She said, okay. And we started. And at that time, we were making 5 lakhs a day in corporate workshops. So imagine that journey from 5,000 a day in 17 years to 5 lakhs a day.
And even before that, you were making 10,500 rupees a month.
That was when I got the job. Yes, that's true. Now, when we stopped all that income suddenly after 17 years during COVID, a month ago, we had decided to go individual workshops. So we said, what do we teach? So the second book, which we had already written, The Law of Attraction, we started teaching law of attraction already for the last 17 years at home for free on Sundays. But then we said, let's teach it formally, making it more advanced, what we have applied in our life. So we declared our first online workshop. I remember on a particular date, and COVID hit and lockdown happened. Now, because lockdown happened, guess where everybody was?
In their homes.
And my workshop was on Zoom.
Yeah.
So it was a full house.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. The month when my business stopped is the month when this business started. And the income which we were making from corporates got replaced by this business in just 3 months after that. So if you really see it, how would I have strategically designed this? But something in the grand universe made this happen. Why? Because my frequency was to attract that.
You created your own luck.
You created our own luck. Let me explain it a different way. Let's say a person has, when I say the word frequency, let's use another word for it, benchmark. Let's say a person has a benchmark of making 10,000 rupees per month or a frequency of making 10,000 rupees per month. He suddenly gets an opportunity to make 1 lakh rupees a month. So his frequency is here. That means he's comfortable making 10,000 rupees a month. Luckily, he gets an opportunity to make 1 lakh a month. So obviously, he's very happy. But meet anybody who suddenly gets a bigger opportunity. While they're happy, they also feel what?
कि सब खत्म हो जाएगा किसी दिन.
There is this fear of loss. There is this nervousness. Why? Anything you're not comfortable with, that means that's not your frequency. So a lot of people ask me, what is my frequency? Other than the word FTBA, I use the word comfort. What you're comfortable with is your frequency.
Yeah.
Now with this guy, his comfort is 10,000. So if he gets an opportunity to make 1 lakh, he will make it for some time. But internally, his mind will say, yaar, kuch gadbad na ho jaye. Kuch problem na ho jaye. I hope this remains forever. Unconsciously, he'll make some mistake. And he himself or she himself will herself will sabotage their own life. And that 1 lakh will come down, guess what? 10,000 again. And when they make 10,000 again, their mind says, मुझे पता था कुछ तो गलत होने वाला है. I told you
मैं तो
so.
इसी के लिए बना हूँ.
मैं तो इसी के लिए बना हूँ. And they come back here.
Right.
But you know, it works positively. Let's say this person is going through a crisis. And instead of 10,000, he starts making 2,000. Is he comfortable here? Again, not comfortable. Just like 1 lakh. This is the lower one.
Yeah.
So now his mind motivates him. Okay, come on, dude, you're not meant for this. You're better than this. Right? You can do better than this. He motivates himself, works hard, has the right thoughts, has the right positivity. And as you say, luckily he'll attract the right opportunities. He'll come back to 10,000 and he'll say, देखा, आ गया ना मैं? मेरे को मालूम था मैं इसी के लिए बना हूं.
Right.
So if I really want to increase my income, what do I have to increase first? My environment I have to change first, or my internal frequency I have to upgrade first? What would you say?
Your internal belief and your frequency.
But what if a person is stuck at the internal belief?
Then you have to get into a better environment.
Sometimes even that environment may not be able to support your belief if you're too strong about nahi ho sakta.
Yeah.
So that's what law of attraction is about. It's about learning the principles to take control of what I believe. And if my goal is here, elevate my FTBA here first. And then you know that you deserve it.
Right.
And then you start feeling comfortable about it.
So what happened with me, right? March of 2022 is when I made for the very first time in my life 15 lakhs.
Wow.
And that was also the
March
time
2022.
2022.
Wow.
And that was the time where I took out a time to go and meet people. And there was this 3-month period where I had the opportunity to meet people who I only used to look up to on video on YouTube. I met Aman Dattarwal, who I used to look up to when I was learning about IIT JEE. I met Rashomani, I met Ranveer Alabadia, I met so many of these people. And what it did was, it basically made me convince my own mind that there are bigger levels to conquer. There are so many more things that I can accomplish. And my age and my inexperience is not a hurdle to it. What is a hurdle is my own mind bitching about what I cannot do. So that was also the reason why 2022 I just made up a story saying that I want to do college events. Invite me for college events. The idea of me, the people who are ever inviting me were my own batchmates. Like they were in my
Wow.
own year. So the idea of me, my the same age, going on a stage and talking about what I've accomplished and how can people get to that same level was crazy. The people who were listening to me were amazed to hear what I have achieved and how did I get there. And so the biggest thing that was holding them back was also their belief system that
Absolutely.
I cannot get there, that I cannot achieve what Ishan has achieved because I don't have a degree, or oh, Ishan has a rich background, or whatever excuse that they put in the comment sections.
Correct. Correct. Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. And that's, and from me, that is law of attraction. And being able to consciously now take control of that. Because you were in the right environment somewhere, the right upbringing somewhere, you met the right people somewhere around you, which somewhere ended up giving you the right feelings, thoughts, beliefs, and actions. Somewhere your frequency was already tuned to that.
Yeah.
But what do we do if our frequency is not tuned to that? That's where we learn. Rather than believing that, यार ईशान तो लकी था. नहीं, ईशान की भी अपनी एक frequency थी जिसकी वजह से वो luck create हुआ. Right? To give you a very good example of one of our students. Because a lot of people would feel that we are only talking about our story, where, okay, we've become successful. But let's look at people who were in complete pits. To give you an example, in my book, I talk about a guy called Manoj. When he met me first, he had gone through some losses of 30 lakhs, completely bankrupt, and all the money in his bank was gone because his partner had cheated him about something. When he came to me, he said he has monthly 2 lakh expenses, zero money in his bank account. Three banks are behind his life for the money, every day giving him calls. His wife is divorcing him, his children hate him. He had decided to commit suicide. And he clearly told me, "You are my last chance." Now, when he told me, "You are my last chance," I first felt more as if I'm in the examination room now, where I have to pass as a law of attraction coach. So I told him, "Okay, let's work on this." And I have only one request, I told him. Whatever I tell you, you've tried your way before this, postpone your suicide for 30 days. And for 30 days, just do what I'm saying. And this is where we taught him this practice called daily magic practice, which is also what we are giving free to your audience as part of the workshop. Now, this daily magic practice he started doing every day. He started practicing law of attraction, where we kind of almost guide people what to do every day. Believe it, in 30 days, his frequency went up so much, his confidence went up so much, his belief in himself went up so much. One, because his belief went up, he said, "Okay, now I'm going to make it happen." The three banks who were not believing in him got convinced to give him a 1 year extension. One of those banks said, "If you want more money for business, I will give you more loan also." It's been many years to that story because it's part of the book now. But today, this guy's a millionaire. He makes a crore a month, has more than 100 employees. The best part is during COVID, he did not fire a single employee. That's the kind of money he made. Today, he's happily successful in his marriage. He's divorced with the earlier wife, but he's now happily married with another woman. He still connects with his children, has gone to Vipassana 3 times. But this is the kind of turnaround that can happen in a person's life if they take control of their mindset rather than only believing that just because I've lost all the money in the world, now I'm not worth living. Make sense? So that's one of the examples of how law of attraction can help people.
But like, go in more depth and tell me what did he really do exactly after he met you that allowed him to get in that state in life?
Correct. So now let's talk about application, right? Like, how do you really apply law of attraction? Imagine, let's say, doing a complete workshop here, something that people can apply from today onwards and start manifesting what they want in their life. Very first step is work on unconditional happiness. Now, what is unconditional happiness? Most of us believe that we got to be happy only when we achieve our goals, right? So until then, what are we feeling? Make a guess what a person is feeling until they don't achieve their goals.
Unaccomplished, like a failure.
Failure, unaccomplished. Another word is desperation. Constant feeling of kab hoga ki nahi hoga. Would you say this feeling is positive or negative?
It's a negative feeling.
Negative feeling.
Yeah,
And if people are vibrating at this feeling at least half a day, does it impact how they relate to their relationships?
absolutely. They're not going to be in the abundance mindset.
Correct. They get irritated at their family members. They don't connect with their friends properly. They doubt themselves because of all these feelings. That's because we believe that we'll only be happy when we achieve that goal. So, one of the first practices which we do in DMP, which I made Manoj do, is unconditional happiness first. Start feeling happy for no reason. Dance every day. Celebrate every day as if you are already successful. Now, the reason I use the word dance is because feelings live in our body. They don't just live in our heart. A lot of people say, "I'm feeling something in my heart." But does your heart really have feelings? Not really. Your entire body has feelings. When you use certain expressions in a certain way, that's when the feelings are generated. That's how actors use it. Actors understand this, that if they use their body in the right fashion, they can make themselves cry in 30 seconds. But if there are bad actors, they are crying and you're laughing, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to name any right now, but I'm sure you've met actors where they are crying on the screen and you're laughing out in the seat. The reason is because they don't know how to use their body language. So, first, let's use the right body language, use the right music, elevate your mood, elevate your frequency of feeling happy every day for at least 10 minutes during the day. I'm not saying you get happy the whole day. Maybe it's difficult to do that while you're struggling. Okay, but can you do it 10 minutes? Start with that one practice. Second, start feeling comfortable about the whole idea of money. A lot of people are, their relationship with money is very bad. I'll give you an example of that. Like a lot of people say, "Yeah, I don't want to do it for money." Now imagine there is a person called Ishan. Okay. He comes inside the room. And I look at Ishan and I say, Ishan, I don't want to work for you. I want to work for myself. I don't. How will Ishan feel if I say that on his face?
I feel bad.
He'll feel bad.
Yeah.
Money is a energy like this which is alive. And you're constantly saying to money, I don't want to work for you. So money says, okay, भैया ठीक है.
पैसे की रिस्पेक्ट नहीं करते.
पैसे की रिस्पेक्ट नहीं करते. Start being comfortable about two simple things: selling and buying. Selling and buying. People are very awkward about selling. कुछ बेचना होता है लोगों को बहुत दिक्कत कि ऐसे कैसे पैसे मांग लूं.
Right.
Learn to say, I'm comfortable with selling. Create that comfort zone. That's law of attraction part.
Maybe they're not confident in what they are selling, or what they don't believe in what they are selling.
Sometimes people really have a good product. They believe they are good at what they do. Like you'll see in your field, you'll meet people who are really good editors, really good cameramen, really good speakers, but they don't know how to ask money because their relationship with money is guilt based. कि अगर मैं पैसे मांग रहा हूं तो कुछ गलत कर रहा हूं, तो मुझे पैसे नहीं मांगने चाहिए. Get comfortable with asking money for selling something, and to do that, get comfortable giving money when somebody is selling you something. Na?
Right. The mentor I was telling you about that I have taught me this big lesson, like you said, is to be a capitalist.
Beautiful.
Be a capitalist.
Be a capitalist. Did you read Ayn Rand? Did he tell you about that?
He must have.
That's where it comes from. So that feeling of comfort is very, very necessary. That's what I made Manoj do. He had become so uncomfortable about money. And it's natural, right? Because he had lost everything at that point of time. But to start feeling comfort requires a little effort, but it's possible. So start feeling comfortable with money, start feeling unconditionally happy, right? Now, to do that, one of the actions that I say to people, remember FTBA? So action frequency is also very important. So from now onwards, every time you're giving money to anybody, whether you're spending something on Amazon or you're doing some Paytm money transfer to anybody, rickshaw wala, taxi wala, anything, most people immediately after they spend money, you know what they feel? कि अरे यार,
Empty.
खर्चा हो गया.
Yeah.
कुछ गया.
Hmm.
Like something went.
कट गया ऐसे.
कट गया. Right? कम हो गया.
Yeah.
So I said, develop a new practice. The practice of saying, wherever you spend this money, say, go with love, grow with love. So literally in my notes, when I do a GPay or I do a Paytm, there's a note option there. I say, go with love, grow with love.
Go with love.
Grow with love.
Grow with love.
Where I'm saying to the money, you go with love and you grow with love wherever you go so that you help the other person grow.
Right.
So I'm not feeling bad for my money going, and I'm not feeling bad for the person who received the money. As a result, my relationship with money is improving. This is called upgrading my feelings about how I feel about money.
Yeah.
This is one of the practices. Another practice we say is change your beliefs about money. Like, to give you a very simple example of a belief about money that most people have is making money is difficult. Basically difficult. Now, if you keep thinking that basically making money is difficult, the opportunity may be right in front of you. You may not be able to see it. Like, if you really think about it right now, India as a country is probably the highest potential opportunity for making money.
True.
Right? आप पानी पूरी बेच के पैसे कमा सकते हो. Now you'll say, यार पानी पूरी कौन बेचेगा? See, that's the problem. Here's another belief. People love big money, not small money. They respect big money, but not small money. But you'll see people who have become big loved the money when it was small, and hence they became big.
Yeah, true.
So I would say another belief that is very important to cultivate is I love small money and big money both.
There's a story that I went to Kolaba in Mumbai, and we were staying in Maker Towers. It's like a very posh apartment that my friend, my co-founder had. उनकी मासी का था, तो हम वहाँ पे खड़े हुए थे, तो वहाँ पे सामने फरारी खड़ी हुई थी. तो my friend ऐसे just asked me
What
कि
color Ferrari?
it was a red Ferrari.
Wow.
In Kolaba in Mumbai, and my friend asked that, "Bhai, who do you think is the owner of it, and what do you think he does?" तो माय फर्स्ट रिएक्शन वाज़ कि होगा कोई 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 वेंचर बैक्ड कंपनी होगी, कोई सीईओ होगा, फाउंडर होगा, कोई बड़ी कंपनी होगी, कुछ हाई टेक चीज़ कर रहे होंगे। एंड ही इज़ लाइक नहीं, वो क्या करते हैं? दे बेसिकली प्रोवाइड सिक्योरिटी गार्ड्स इन ऑल द अपार्टमेंट सोसाइटीज़ इन कोलाबा। दैट्स इट। कोलाबा, नॉट इवन लाइक मुंबई,
Crazy.
जस्ट कोलाबा, सिक्योरिटी गार्ड्स देते हैं।
Security guard.
दैट्स इट, एंड द गाय हैज़ अ फेरारी।
Now, when he started, he must have started supplying one security guard.
Yeah.
But because he respected and loved that money there, is why he made it big. So the first belief is Respect. No, first belief. Making money is easy. पहले मान लो. Opportunity बहुत है आसपास. Second belief. Respect small money and big money both. छोटा पैसा आ रहा है उसको ना मत बोलो. आने दो. बहुत सारे लोग बोलते हैं. A lot of people told me that, sir, Mitesh, I'm not attracting a job for the last 1 year. I'm doing affirmations. I said, okay, in the last 1 year, have you got even one job opportunity? They said, no, I've got more than one. So then why didn't you take it? "Nee, the salary was not enough. I said, what other reason? "Nee, it was not the work that I love to do. And I tell them, take your right hand and give yourself a tappu. कि यूनिवर्स ने कुछ दिया था,
Right.
थैंक यू बोल के लिया नहीं, तो यूनिवर्स आगे क्यों देगा? पहले उसको लो, उसको थैंक यू बोलो. लव टू डू द थिंग्स फर्स्ट व्हिच यू डोंट लाइक टू डू. Respect it. Respect the small money. That will make it big money. That's the second belief. Now, the third belief is very critical here, which is where I believe is the difference between people who make money and people who make wealth. Because दो टाइप के लोग हैं ना. 80% लोग तो पैसा ही कमाते रहते हैं. मतलब क्या? जिंदगी भर पैसे के लिए सर्वाइव कर रहे हैं. But then there are some people who become wealthy, who have now gone beyond that stage of अब पैसे के लिए नहीं काम कर रहे.
Right.
कि मालूम है आप कितना भी काम करोगे पैसा तो आता ही रहना है.
Yeah, there was a stat which said that Jeff Bezos in 2020, every second what he made money was equivalent to the yearly average earning of a American citizen.
तो beyond a certain point, तो he's not even bothered about how much money he's making.
Yeah.
And believe it doesn't take to become Jeff Bezos to have that feeling. If you're making, in India at least, about 10 lakhs a month, you have already surpassed that level.
True. And people think that even that is like
Unachievable,
unreasonable.
right? Yeah. So the first belief, money is difficult.
Yeah.
It's achievable. It's very easy. And once you reach 10 lakhs, it's nothing. Like, then after that, you feel, कितना भी काम कर लो, कितना भी खर्चा कर लो. Now work is work. After that, whatever money you make is just a number. It's a game after that. So the third belief is very critical. And that belief is, don't work only for monthly, work for scalable business. A lot of people don't become wealthy because they are constantly creating strategies to make monthly income.
Short term thinking.
Short term thinking, choti thinking. Let's have big thinking, which means that don't apply any strategy in your business which will not be scaled to 1,000 crores, which will not be scaled to 10,000 crores. I remember somebody that day came to me and said, Mitesh, I'll give you 10 lakhs, do my one on one coaching. And I said, no. He said, but why? I'm giving you the money. I said, because it's not scalable. I'm still going to sell time. But if I create a system where my education continues growing, my company starts growing, and it can be scalable to 1,000 crore, 10,000 crore, if it's that kind of a system, then I'll do it. Then I don't mind selling a course for 1,000 rupees to 1 million people because at least it's a scalable system. Start thinking like that.
Right.
Have that belief that I want to make it big. Now, the best part is beyond a certain point, now you're making that just for time pass. It's not even about money anymore. It is
It's a
just
game.
it's a game now.
Yeah.
Where you're just happy doing more and more and more, not because you're chasing money. Like, I'll tell you something very crazy. A lot of people say, Mitesh, what's your purpose? And what is the purpose of life? Like, this is a one big question you'll see in many podcasts or many spiritual conversations. Like, what is the purpose of life? The ultimate answer I got was from my mentor. He said, the most ultimate, closest to truth answer is that the ultimate purpose of life is time pass. You're born, you're going to die. You're going to pass this time. That's the ultimate purpose.
कुछ करो या ना करो achieve.
Time to pass करना है.
Time pass. Right.
Now the option you have is quality time pass या bad quality time pass. So the reason now I want to grow a company from 1,000 crores to 10,000 crores is no more anymore for just money, but that money is about a quality of life. Where now when I help more people and I serve more people, my quality of life grows. Other people's quality of life grows. That is the purpose of life. When people cultivate this kind of a belief, making money becomes easy, being wealthy becomes easy. That is what shifted in Manoj to answer that question for you again. Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense. So I wanted to ask you this question that a lot of my people who are watching, a lot of the viewers are students, right? And there's a very big self doubt people have. And I'll give you an example of a TV series called Kota Factory, जिसका सीजन 3 अभी आया था, जहाँ पे वैभव करके कैरेक्टर होता है एंड वो बहुत मेहनत करता है. दैट वाज द मेन focus of the whole show. जीतू भैया जो टीचर होते हैं एंड वैभव हु इज द मेन स्टूडेंट, वो पूरी टाइम मेहनत करता है 2 सीजन, और आखिरी थर्ड सीजन में आकर के वो पेपर लिखने के बाद भी उसका सिलेक्शन नहीं होता IIT जेई में, एंड ही इज जस्ट क्राइंग, ही डजंट नो व्हाट टू डू, ही हैज सो मच सेल्फ डाउट कि वो आगे कुछ कर भी पाएगा कि नहीं कर पाएगा, बिकॉज दैट इज हाउ द कोटा इज
Environment
डिजाइंड
is,
कि
yeah,
आप IIT में जाओगे वरना तो आप कहीं कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते.
correct.
सो that is a very common thing which even I faced. I could not qualify JEE Advance. So I'm like a Weber as well. There's a
Okay,
Weber
that's
in me.
interesting. That's
And
interesting.
and that day I remember right now as well. I was living in Mumbai, and the result came by the evening, and I realized that I'm not qualified to get into an IIT, and my dreams were shattered. I didn't even know what BITS Goa was. I later got to know कि अच्छा BITS करके भी एक कॉलेज जहाँ जा सकते हैं, because I was so hell bent of getting into an IIT. The point I'm getting to at is so many students go through this problem. How can they change their mindset, and how can they change their beliefs to make sure that वो वहाँ पे ना खुद को एक हार मान लेते हैं, and then they're like कि they are not worthy of anything else, anything greater in life. What I did was the day when I gave my IIT JEE Advance, I think हर पेपर लिखने के बाद you get this idea कि होगा कि नहीं होगा.
Hmm.
Like you can get that
You can
that
sense
that
that.
instinct, right? तो I knew कि कुछ तो गड़बड़ करी है मैंने. It's not the best experience, but I realized that that is the end. That's it. I'm not going to think again about JEE Advance. That was 27th May 2019. I came back to my house and I forgot about everything. I could have taken a drop year to focus on IIT JEE Advance, but I was like, no, this part of my life ends here. What starts now is me focusing on my skills, is me learning to code, is me learning about marketing, about how does the world really work. And I got this Udemy course and I started learning about programming Python. So that was my story. But then what can students do to have a better belief system and to not belittle themselves? वो जो एक सेल्फ टॉक होती है नेगेटिव वाली कि अगर मैं ये नहीं कर पाया तो मैं कुछ और भी नहीं कर पाऊंगा लाइफ में.
Correct. I'll give you a beautiful example. You've heard about this concept, this game called dominoes, where there are these chips that are kept in a line, and if you flip the right domino, once it flips one, it flips all of them.
Right.
Right? That's called a domino effect. एक गिरता है, सारे गिर जाते हैं पीछे पीछे. So just like this, in our mind, there are some buttons. If you hit the right button, the right thought, the right belief, it starts collapsing the other negative beliefs. So I'll give you an affirmation which our audience can start working on from today onwards. The affirmation is what I call a self-esteem affirmation. See, most people don't have self-esteem; they have money esteem. Let's look at the difference in the word.
पैसे से रेंट किया हुआ.
हाँ. So self and esteem matlab esteem means importance. Self is self. So self importance. Money esteem is money importance. So most people have money importance. क्या? कि I am only as important as money. That means the level of my importance depends on the level of income I make, is what people feel about themselves. So their self esteem has now dependent on a job, dependent on a degree, dependent on income, dependent on salary, dependent on having a girlfriend. Right? There are people who would literally commit suicide because they're not in the right relationship or because they broke up in the right relationship. But if you really think of it, is this person defined by his girlfriend or the boyfriend?
It's a
No,
part of their life.
it's a part of their life. So the affirmation that they really need to use, which creates a domino effect in their subconscious mind, the self-esteem affirmation is, I love myself the way I am, irrelevant of who loves me or not. That's the first part of it. Where it doesn't matter you love me or not, it doesn't matter whether you like me or not. I love myself.
Even if something doesn't happen, I'll be happy.
So that's the second part.
Yeah.
So first part is irrelevant of who loves me or not, and irrelevant of what I have or not, what I have achieved or not. Now, when we repeat this affirmation again and again, that I love myself the way I am, irrelevant of whether you love me or not, or whether what I have or not, I give myself permission to love myself, to be happy without this goal right now, without this failure, if I may put it as a word, whether I've not achieved a job or a promotion or a business or a startup or an investment, doesn't really matter. I love myself even though I failed at this. So now I have not made this goal my dependency of my happiness. I've taken this goal and I've said, irrelevant of whether I achieve this goal or not, irrelevant of whether I achieve this relationship or not, I love myself.
Very stoic way to think about life.
The more I do this in my mind as a subconscious, and the more I consciously repeat it, it becomes part of me. And as a result of that, that emotion will come up. They will not feel that low anymore. They will not feel that self doubt after a few days. Will it work after saying it once? No. But will it take a year? No. It'll just take a few days.
Right.
A few days of practice, multiple times in a day, can elevate their emotions and give them that self confidence and self love again, that I'm worthy of living with or without this thing. To
Yeah.
give you a simple example, there was this one girl who, when she came to me, and she was in platinum, and we do a program in Pune once in a year called One Day Miracle Meet. I remember we were having lunch with me and Indu and everybody, and she just fell on the ground and she just started crying drastically. We're like, what happened? And she said she's going through a very bad situation in her house where she's got zero income. Her husband has just told her that he's having an extramarital affair with somebody. He wants to leave the house. She doesn't have any other income right now. She has two children. She doesn't know what to do. And I said, the first thing you need to do is take responsibility for what you've attracted. This cannot happen in your life without your own frequency. But if you keep feeling bad that the environment has made me this, then you'll keep feeling sad. So instead of feeling bad and sad, stand up, take responsibility for your manifestation. She did that. She practiced the self esteem affirmation, one of these things. Today it's been more than a year. Believe it or not, her husband's back with her. She herself has become a coach. She's making 2 lakhs a month. She's personally independent financially and emotionally today. And the weirdest part of the story is after 1 year now, couple of days ago, she was talking to her husband, and generally they were talking about what would be the biggest regret of your life if you die. Just a general conversation between two people. And the man ends up saying, I think I'll always regret not having a relationship with that girl whom I broke up with. So, believe it or not, this girl tells her, in that case, you should go. She happily told him, go with love, grow with love. She let him go.
Why didn't she let him go before?
Because at that time, her entire identity depended on whom?
On the relationship, on the person.
On the relationship. But as she developed her own identity and she realized that she's worthy of who she is, irrelevant of whether he loves her or not, is when she started building herself up. And now, 1 year later, when she's back into that same situation, her reaction to the same situation is very different. She's not breaking down. She's not falling down on the ground and crying and saying, my life is destroyed. Now she's taking control and she's saying, the man, okay, go. If you really believe you can be happy with her, then you should go there. And I believe I can be happy with myself. I may be alone, madam, but I'm not lonely, is what she said. Now, this is the kind of power that's possible when people consciously take control of their mindset. And that's possible to start with an affirmation of self esteem, affirmation of I love myself the way I am, irrelevant of who loves me or not, irrelevant of what I have or not. That's one step towards that frequency.
Very interesting. What type of programs do you have, and why are they important for someone in their life, like to focus on their career, on their health, on their money part of their life?
So, very simple. There are two ways of learning anything in life. One is trial and error. Second is education, directly learn it from somewhere where it has already been tried and tested. If you go through medical degree, I mean, you could try and do it yourself, but 100, 200 years of research has already been done. Might as well go through 5 years of degree and become a doctor in a proper way, faster, rather than doing it trial and error. Most of us take the trial and error method in upgrading our mindset. For going through engineering, we do go through a degree. For MBA, we go through a degree. For doctorate, we go through a degree. Education, basically. But when it comes to mindset, we believe this has to be learned by experience and trial and error. Can be, but it may take too much time for you. The reason it is important is you can do it faster when you learn it in an educated manner in a format where it is already tried and tested. Example, in our wealth mastery course, which is focused completely on money, on law of attraction. Uh, so, by the way, I hope, I'm sure you must have already told people at the beginning that we are also giving the first lesson of wealth mastery course free to your audience,
Oh,
other
wow.
than the 30 days daily magic practice.
Mm.
We'll give them the money affirmations ready-made template, and we'll give them the vision board of money, which I personally use. That is also available. So in this first lesson, which people are anyways getting free, one of the things we do is we give people a systematic strategy, kind of an assessment test of identifying What in their feelings is blocking their money? What in their beliefs is blocking their money? What in their actions is blocking their money? And it's a proper Excel sheet assessment. They do that assessment, and for the first time in their life, this whole game of law of attraction, which is very subjective otherwise, has become objective. On Excel, they'll be able to see, oh, now I know why I'm not making money. Like, this is where I'm stuck. Now, imagine being able to do this yourself. It could take years of research, but I've already done that research.
Right.
Why not just apply it? It's free anyway. करके देखो ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा
Systems
क्या
is
होगा?
what you get.
Systems is
Access.
what you get. Yes. So they go through that exercise. At the end of that exercise, they have two things very clear. This is where I'm stuck. The second thing, this should be my new frequency on Excel. Like, this is how it should look. This should be my new beliefs, my new feelings, my new actions in order to attract my money goals. Giving people ready made emotional frequencies, which already millionaires have. Let's apply that. Right? Like what I told you about the belief of anytime you get an idea, if it's going to increase your income, but it is not going to be scalable, don't apply that idea because you'll get addicted to small money. Small money is very dangerous because you get addicted to it very fast. And now stopping that is more dangerous.
How much do you make today?
Okay, so last month we made about 3.8 crores. Now, it's only because it's a scalable system, which means can we keep scaling it? Now, this belief is not mine. I also learned it from my mentor who's bigger than me. So, learning these principles in this course is a little faster compared to just going through life and researching and trial and erroring yourself. That's one of the workshops of wealth mastery.
Tell me about your mentor, Tony Robbins, that you mentioned.
Do you know Tony Robbins?
I've seen him.
You've seen him?
On
Have you met him?
I've not.
Have you gone through his workshops?
I love his electrifying energy.
Yes. So I met Tony Robbins, I think 25 years ago. Not met, but a friend of mine gifted me his book. And I remember reading his first chapter, Unlimited Power. And in the chapter, this is how he starts. He says, I was going by my helicopter and I was looking down from my helicopter and I see thousands of people on the road traveling towards a particular conference hall where I need to go. And I started wishing to God that God, for whatever reason this traffic has been generated, please clear this traffic so that my students can reach my conference hall fast. He lands to his conference hall in his helicopter and he says, I realized this entire crowd is coming to my conference. That picture blew my mind. And somewhere I think that book and that chapter was responsible for me having that seed in my thought that this is what I want to do in my life, that this is where I want to be in my life. And then since then, I don't think there's been a day or time when I've not read about him, I've not heard about him. Even now in my mobile, on the way, I was listening to his video.
Yeah.
So now I've done all his workshops. I've been to US to attend him multiple times. He also has a program called Platinum Partnership. I enrolled for
And
his
it was
Platinum.
very expensive.
Very expensive.
Why do you invest so much? How I think it's like thousands of dollars.
So Platinum Partnership overall comes to about $75,000.
$75,000.
$75,000, which is
That's
about
a huge sum
75
of money.
lakhs. Yeah, huge sum of money. But 75 lakhs other than travel,
Yeah.
other than the time we invest in. So the whole investment for at least us goes about 1.5 crores or so in 1 year.
Right.
But it's worth it because what I learned from there, one, it upgrades my frequency. It elevates who I am as a person. Because when you go to a Tony Robbins event, you're not doing a workshop like what you see in India sometimes of 500 people, 1,000 people. There are 15,000 people in a stadium and you're dancing with them and you're doing a workshop. And it starts at 9 o'clock in the morning and finishes at 12 o'clock at night. And this man is able to make people stand for 12 hours.
Insane.
I mean, it's difficult to keep people engaged in an Amitabh Bachchan movie for 3 hours with millions of dollars invested into the right music and the right setup and the right light and the right conversations. And here is the man keeping you engaged for 12 hours in a day. 15,000 people not blinking. People not going to the washroom because they don't want to miss out on what he's going to say. When you go and learn there, you realize that what you can get from him as an energy is far beyond the content. The content, I have it on my mobile. It's not a big deal. But I go there for the energy. The same reason I ask people to join my workshops is not just the content, it's the energy, is what I get from him.
Mm.
And every time I upgrade myself with him, I get somewhere that energy of not only helping myself, but helping my own students. That's Tony Robbins. You must meet him. You must go through his workshops. Like if you've not invested in at least one of his workshops, you're missing out on a rock star experience of your life.
Damn, that's a lot of FOMO.
Yeah, yeah, rock star experience.
I
Go for
am
it.
going to the US next
Yeah,
month, so
go
I'd
for it.
love to connect with him. I'll shoot him a cold email.
Done.
Amazing. This was really insightful. Learning about law of attraction and how it can help people. What's like a experience of your life or like a story in your life that has like completely changed your perception of the world and how the world works?
I think one of the biggest experiences we had was when I remember a few years ago, not even few, just about last year, we said, let's do something which even could challenge our beliefs of law of attraction. So I and Indu were talking and we said, what can we do something so impossible that it would prove that it has nothing to do with my talent. It has nothing to do with my hard work. And somewhere the universe made this happen. And so we decided that to spread the science of law of attraction, let's hire a brand ambassador. Now, when you said hire a brand ambassador, who can we go to? So I said, let's think as big as we can. Now, who's the biggest Indian celebrity in India whom we call the Big B? The biggest,
Right.
Amitabh Bachchan. I said, let's try Amitabh Bachchan. And I remember the first word Indu said is, you crazy. Like, that's too big. Like, how will we get there?
Right.
How will we even get to meet him? And why will he even do it? And do we even have the resources to hire him? And you remember the number one rule of law of attraction: don't think how, don't think when, just use it. There's no harm in using law of attraction. The principles of affirmations, visualization, the right techniques, just use it. Kya farak pad raha hai? So I created a vision board where my face is next to Amitabh Bachchan and he's saying, buy Mitesh's Law of Attraction book. Crazy, right? And I just put it in my fridge and my bathroom and my bedroom and everywhere, like a vision board. And I started doing some other techniques with it. Believe it or not, in 1 week after that, I find a friend who says, I know Amitabh Bachchan's manager. I said, that's crazy. Let's connect with him. I messaged. 2 days after that, I get a message back saying, come over for a meeting. After I started this whole process, within 2 weeks, I was sitting in Amitabh Bachchan's house.
You met Amitabh Bachchan.
I met Amitabh Bachchan at this distance.
Insane.
I was blown away. Like, this is not possible. And if this is possible, anything is possible.
Yeah.
It's a different story that didn't work out as a brand ambassador deal for some reason. Uh, but when we came out of that house of his, he lives in Juhu, if you know, in Mumbai.
Yeah. Yeah.
I came out of his house. The first 5 minutes, I and Indu were like, this happened. We met Amitabh Bachchan. And even though he said no for it,
What was like a striking thing about him when you met him in person?
oh, his humility. Man of few words, very few words. But there is a certain stability to his energy, a certain stance which moves you.
Mystique.
Mystique, you could call it. Yeah. Just he being there could move you. It was beautiful. But I'm pretty sure it has 80% to do with what I have in my mind about him. Right?
Right.
But once we came out, first 5 minutes was euphoria. And then we realized what we came here for, he said no for. And we applied the first technique of law of attraction, which we love to every time we fail. So this is for you and for your audience and for everybody. Whenever you fail at something, most people say, like, why did this happen, right? We practice this technique, which we say, time for double happiness. So instead of saying time for crying, we say time for double happiness. So I and Indu gave each other a high five and said, time for double happiness. Let's go and celebrate. Celebrate failure, not just success.
Right.
So we went back to our hotel, which was Novotel Juhu, right next to it.
Yeah.
We said, how do we celebrate? Let's have dinner. So Indu said, I want to meet a friend who stays nearby in Juhu. And the name she took, she's not met her physically yet. So now, I mean, not in Mumbai. I said, that's rare. You want to meet her? Like, what happened? How did you think of her? She said, I don't know. I just feel like meeting her. I said, okay, call. So she called, and I was in a session. I had some Zoom meeting in the evening. I finished that, and I went to the swimming pool. Indu and this girl, they were chatting together. Her name is Hetal, very good friend. And we were telling Hetal that we met Amitabh Bachchan. She said, are you guys crazy? You met Amitabh Bachchan? So we told her the whole story about law of attraction and everything. And she said, so who are you thinking of now? And in the meantime, we had already thought of somebody. And guess whom we thought of now?
Hrithik Roshan.
Hrithik Roshan. He said, but again, the thought is like, how, right? And Hital comes and says, I know someone who's very close in my family who knows Roshan's brand ambassador, the brand manager. what are the odds of meeting someone like this who knows exactly the person you want to point to?
Yeah.
If this is not law of attraction, what is?
Mm.
Like, I have no talent in this. So we called up this guy that same night. The next day, he connects us to this company. And believe it or not, 1 week after that, we were back in Juhu, sitting in Ritik's house. This distance, having with him, we had half an hour conversation.
Yeah.
Genius man. He knew about law of attraction. He knew about the secret. He knew about NLP, some of our techniques that we use. He knew almost everything I was talking about. He believes in it. I was like, this is the man to promote this course. And he said, didn't instantly say yes. He said, okay, let's talk about it. Took us a month. Then he said yes. And believe it or not, today he's our brand ambassador.
Beautiful.
He's on my website. He is promoting our books. On my ads, it's his video playing. But this is something that really changed my perspective towards life, that if you truly surrender to the little higher universe and saying, you take care of it, I am taking the guts to desire it, and you allow that game to work with a little bit of belief, anything is possible. Absolutely anything is possible. That is one. And I think another thing that really changed my perspective in life is once I started doing these workshops in the last 3 years. So, Ishan, first 17 years when I did corporate workshops, made a lot of money. Um, I'm still happy then, satisfied, financially free in the first 17 years. But when I started doing law of attraction workshops, I started meeting people who were depressed. And from depression, they go to becoming life coaches with me. I started meeting people who felt like this girl I said, I am nothing without my husband, to somebody who's so emotionally strong today. Meeting students who are saying, I'm not getting a job for 3 years, and suddenly they get a job and now they're living in US. The more I met these people, beyond a certain point, my perspective shifted. And for the first time after experiencing this, I realized what Tony Robbins says. He said it many times, I heard it many times, but I think my experience really changed my perspective here, which is that eventually, beyond a certain point of time, what will truly give you satisfaction is serving people. And now, the joy that I get in doing these workshops, that kick I don't get out of making money anymore.
Yeah.
I love money, I respect money. I still thrive for bigger games, for time pass. But the joy and the satisfaction that you get when you help these people and when they become extraordinary, that changes your perspective of what says in Bhagavad Gita that you're not born with anything, you're not going to die with anything. You really feel that when you go through this journey. And I remember what my mentor told me. He said, my spiritual mentor, his name is Sahil. He said, eventually there is only one thing you die with. You know what it is?
What is it?
No idea? Wild guess? You do die with someone. You do take something with you.
Wishes of all the people that you
No,
impacted.
no. So that people call it karmas, but not really. What you truly take away with you, and there is scientific research now about this by many scientists in the world and coaches like these, what you truly take away with you is your emotional memory, the quality of life that you lived, nothing else. And you remember that as your DNA memory in the next lifetime. So if you heard about Deepak Chopra, who's written the 7 spiritual laws of success, he says your DNA has a memory from your past life and the last life and the last life for the past 7 lives. That is why, at a very young age, sometimes people will be able to do things that they can't explain because you're carrying it from your previous memory. Maybe you are one of them. I mean, how
I think
otherwise
you're too kind.
how otherwise a 22-year-old gets so successful so fast?
No, I think that point of surrendering and just focusing on doing the work is really important. आपने Rockstar अगर देखी है तो there's a song called Kun
Yes.
Faya Kun.
Kun faya kun.
तो उसमें एंड में एक वर्स होता है in which he first of all starts, he is, जो जॉर्डन होता है उसको निकाल देते हैं घर से, and then he goes to the dargah and he just submits himself, and he just looks up and he finds everything that he wanted, and then he goes all in. So I think it's just about that, going all in and surrendering and knowing that your efforts will surmount to something. The first 6 months of me recording videos, I made zero money. Every single day I showed up. I did not know about all the affirmations and anything, but I just knew that if I will put in everything that I had, something good will come out. And here we are today, 4 years later.
Amazing. In that case, I should invite you for something beautiful then.
Yeah.
To be even more honest with your audience, maybe, is come and attend our workshop
Absolutely.
and really go through that journey, because I'm thinking, if this is what you've done unconsciously, what would you do consciously? Like,
Looking forward to it.
you're already a law of attraction magician from my point of view. Maybe you'd become a maestro by learning a little more.
Very interesting. Absolutely.
So interesting, man. Beautiful questions. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you so much for taking out the time. Guys, that was Mitesh and Law of Attraction. The description will have links to learn more and connect with him on social media. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Shan.